The final two albums that Marley produced after Kaya, Survival in 1979 and Uprising in 1980, were released. Those are the final two albums that he released on the Island label um, before he passed. After that, almost immediately after that, an album called Confrontation was produced. I'm going to talk about both Survival and Uprising in this lecture today. And my hope is to offer just some general overviews and ways to approach the work. I think there is a context that makes sense to me, um, and it's worth bearing in mind. It seems to me that Mali um, Mali was going through a tremendous amount of um, busyness, but also turmoil in the business of being a global artist that is really touring in significant ways. His reputation had become explosive. He was a superstar, international superstar. He was also dealing with business issues around his management. He was having conflicts with Don Taylor, his manager. Um, and in a sense, all of this was taking place while Marley was still carrying on his mission as an artist and a singer. And there is also a sense that Marley must have known that he was not as well as he could be. He certainly knew that he had the cancer in his foot. I don't think he was paying attention to it in any real medical way. He was taking medication for it. But there is an urgency though that would suggest that Marley's awareness was more acute than some would know. Now, whether Marley knew that his death was imminent in a sort of specific way related to his cancer, or whether, in a sense, a spiritual understanding of the urgency of the work that he must do was guiding him, whichever of those were driving it seems to me that Mali becomes more focused on spiritual subjects, spiritual themes, and his political articulations have a really revealing and moving and actually distinctive mix of optimism and some pessimism. You know, there are moments where he starts to ask questions. He's not absolutely assured that the good will overcome the bad, and in a sense, as much as this lack of complete certainty, this hint um, of doubt is not quite the word, but a kind of realistic understanding that the world will continue in its evil ways. It's instead of thinking of that as a shift in terms of ideology and a weakness, it's actually the humanization of Bob Marley. Marley's, and I think these are one of the reasons why we find great intimacy with Bob Marley, and at the same time, it is what one can say connects Marley to the Samic tradition, certainly the Davidian Samic tradition, which in many ways Mali is influenced by and Mali draws on, where it is possible to 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 arrive at a point of faith, a point of hopeful faith through the midst of struggle and questioning and doubt. Throughout the Psalms, David will ask God questions. Um, why do the heathens um, why do they thrive? Does the wicked get away with things? And in a sense, Mali is asking these questions, and they run throughout some of these these two albums. Survival was originally titled Black Survival, and we know this because, of course, the discussions around it were made. But also, if you look at the song, the title song for the album, it's called Black Survival, um, and Mali's clear sense that he self-identifies completely as a black. It's not even a question. Is built into that. The album cover has all the many of the maps, many of the flags of African nations, and I suspect that there would have been some discussion of calling it Africa Unite as an album. That one of the most beautiful songs on the album is Africa Unite. But they call it Survival because, of course, what you do is you superimpose that, the African maps of, the African flags, with the history of enslavement, the history of exploitation. And at Mali, for Mali, that is a call for survival. Um, as well as an articulation of survival, an articulation of the need for survival, the fact of survival. Wake Up and Live is the first song on that album. Life is one big road with a lot of signs. And when you trod in through the rut, don't you complicate your minds. Flee from hate, deceit, and jealousy. Don't bury your thoughts, put your hope in reality is. All together now, wake up and live, wake up and live. And then there's the next verse, life is one big road with a lot of signs. And when you're trotting through the rut, don't you complicate your mind. There's a kind of focus. He's saying that the world is full of struggles. In another song, he sings so much trouble in the world. Marley's just fully aware of the troubles in the world, and they're troubles that have so accumulated that he even thinks of them in generic ways. Um, um, the chorus, then says, "Wake up and live, wake up and live, wake up and live." Then Marley declares, mid song, I think, in a kind of bridge, he says, "Rise from your sleep and slumber. We're more than sand on the seashores. We're more than numbered. Um, wake up and live. Wake up and live. We're more than sand and seashores. We're more than numbered," which is the hopeful thing. And then finally, they say, one cocoa, full a basket," which is a Jamaican proverb. And the proverb means that if you just do things one step at a time, eventually you'll get it all done. One cocoa, one at a time, full a basket. Um, what and he asked the question, what is the use living big today if tomorrow you'll end up in a casket, right? So all of these proverbial statements, these questions, these engagements with people and saying, look, the principle is what we have to do is pay attention to the world, wake up and live, wake up and live. Um, and it opens the album with a kind of energy. This was the version, the first island order, which begins with "Wake Up and Live," and then that's followed by, I think, one of the most elegant songs that Marley has written. It's a song about African unity. He begins with a quote from the Bible, from the Psalms, where David says, how good and how pleasant it is for the brethren to live to come together and live together. And David goes on to say that it is like the flow of nectar on the beard of oil, beard on the beard of the elder. Marley switches it a little bit and he says, "How good and how pleasant it would be before God and man to see the unification of the Rasta man, of the African. As it's been said already, let it be done. We are the children of the Rasta man. We are the children of the Rasta man. Africa unite because we're moving right out of Babylon. African unite because we're going to our father's land." And then in the next verse, he says, "How good and how pleasant it would be before God and mankind to see the unification of the African. As it's been said already, let it be done. We are the children of the Rasta man. Africa unite, Africa unite." And then, of course, in the end of it, he says, um, Africa is awaiting its creator. Africa, you are my forefather. Unite for the Africans, unite for the Africans abroad, unite for the Africans yard, meaning the Africans in Jamaica. So Marley locates himself as an African, and he calls for the unification of Africans. And in a sense, he presents himself as a Pan-Africanist. One Drop is the next song. One Drop is a kind of rhythm. It's a rhythm that one of the three sort of basic rhythms that form reggae music that Bob Marley and the Wailers use. And Marley sort of evokes the idea of the one drop as a kind of rhythm, but he's also speaking to, so he's saying one drop is the reggae. I feel it in the one drop, and you still find time to rap. We're making the one stop, the generation gap. Now feel this drum beat as it beats within, playing a rhythm, resisting against the system, resisting against the evil. I know Jah will never let us down. Um, when you're right from wrong, I know Jah will never let us down. And he said, they made the world so hard. Every day we got to keep on fighting. They make the world so hard. Every day the people are dying from hunger and starvation, lamentations. It's revealed in Revelations. You will find your redemption. And if you give us the teachings of His Majesty, we don't want no devil's philosophy. Give us the teaching of His Majesty. We don't want no devil's philosophy. Feeling it in one drop. One long sort of diatribe, right, that he goes through. But the diatribe is taking him through a movement of seeing the world again. The world is so hard. They made the world so hard. Every day we keep on fighting. They made the world so hard. Every day the people are dying from hunger and starvation, lamentation. It's revealed in Revelation, meaning that the Bible declares this is something that is to be happening. But the refrain is, I know Jah will never let us down. Um, um, but read it in Revelation, because if you give us the teachings of His Majesty, we don't want the devil's philosophy. So Marley in this song locates hope and possibility in faith, in belief. He locates it in the hope of it, and of course then he starts to be boastful. He says he doesn't know what has scared them. The teachings of His Majesty are the things that will correct us and that will set things right. Marley is very clear then at this point that the solution to the world's problems are his faith in Rastafarianism. And it's similar in the next song, which is Ride Natty Ride. I love the way that song opens. Dreddy got a job to do, and he's got to fulfill a mission. To see his hurt is their greatest ambition. But we will survive in this world of competition, because no matter what they do, Natty keep on riding through. No matter what they say, Natty will be there every day. Natty Dread rides again through the mists of tomorrow. Natty Dread rides again. Have no fear, have no sorrow. He begins. Dread has a job to do. Rastaman has a job to do. The prophet has a job to do, and it is to fill his mission, because of course the world is to see him hurt is the greatest ambition of the enemies of Rasta. In the next verse he says, all in all you see Agwan, all in all that you see is happening is to fight against the Rastaman. So they build their worlds of great confusion. They build a world of great confusion to force upon us the devil's illusions. So he's saying that the world is full of these confusions that are intentional, because then it's a way to force on us the illusions that the devils will mean. But the stone that the builders refuse shall be the head cornerstone. He's quoting an old song called Cornerstone, that was a hit ska tune in the 1960s that the Wailers did. But he said, the stone that the builder refused, which is of course quoting from the Bible, shall be the head cornerstone. And no matter what game they play, we've got something they can never take away. And the thing that they can never take away, he says, is the fire. And so fire then is the fire of resistance, the fire of rebellion, the fire of fighting anything. So paints the world. The world is a world of illusions, of depravity, a world in which the enemy is working against the people. But he says the thing that we have to fight it is the fire that's burning down everything. It's the fire, only the birds have their wings. No time to be, no time to be deceived. Brothers, you should know and not believe, sort of playing on the idea that believing something is the suggestion that there's some kind of, it's not a reality. So he says you should know for a fact that and not believe. Just said this judgment, it shall never be with water, and no water can put out his fire. Now, of course, he's then talking about the fire next time. The fire next time is an old adage that is surrounding the whole eschatology of the Bible, which suggests that Noah was the flood, and of course, God promised Noah that there will be no more flood. Of course, but the next time it will be the great apocalypse. So no water will put out this fire. The fire is the fire of resistance, but the fire is also the fire of the end of all things. Um, then in the end, there's this interesting quote. He says, "And now the fire is out of control, panic in the city, wicked weeping for their souls, and everywhere this fire is burning, destroying and melting their gold, destroying and wasting their souls." Natty Dread rides again. And then he says, "Now the people gather on the beach, and the leader tries to make a speech. But the dreadlocks, who speaks against the political leader, the dreadlocks tell them it's too late. The fire is burning, man. Pull your own weight. The fire is burning, man. Pull your own weight." Natty Dread rides again. Now, one of the things that is distinctive about all of these songs is Marley really sort of crams them in with thought. It seems to be that he has so much to say. He has so many things that he has to say, to clarify, to explain, and to explore. So think about it. The fire in Natty Dread rides again. And then from there, he goes into the song Ambush in the Night. And Ambush in the Night is interesting because Ambush is specifically referring the shooting, the assassination attempt. And Marley never got it. Was, according to his good friend Neville Garrick, Marley probably wrote that during the same period that he wrote all the songs from Kaya and Exodus. In Ambush in the Night, he says, "See them fighting for power, and they know not the hour, and they are they know not the hour. So they're bribing with their guns, spare parts, and money. Guns, spare parts, and money. These are the bribes that they use. Bribes that were kind of common in Jamaica because of shortages of spare parts." And in any developing country, when you see them struggling, one of the things, especially if there are sanctions against them from major trade nations, the big currency is spare parts. And of course, the sale of guns. And he says, so they're bribing with their guns, spare parts, and money, trying to belittle our integrity. They say what we know is just what they teach us. He says, they say what we know is what they teach us. And we are so ignorant. And every time they can reach us with political strategy, they keep us hungry. And when we're going to get some food, your brother becomes your enemy. Ambush in the night. Marley then is locating the source of this ambush in the night and this attack. The ambush in the night, he has always maintained, is not about the people who did it, the individuals who he sees as lackeys, but he says there's a bigger system behind them, and a bigger system that leads to this action. And so he paints the picture of the circumstances. Ambush in the night, all guns blazing at me. All guns aiming at me. Ambush in the night, they open fire on me. But at the end of the day, ambush in the night, I'm protected by His Majesty. Then he sort of rejoins and says, look, listen, it's not what they tell us. We are not ignorant, you see, because what we know is not what they tell us. In the first verse, he says, they say what we know is what they teach us. He says, no, what we know is not what they tell us, and we are not ignorant, I mean it, and they just cannot touch us. And then he declares again, always coming back to the core vision of Marley in this period. It's through the power of the Most High we keep on surfacing. Through the power of the Most High we keep on surviving. Ambush in the night. Planned by society. Ambush in the night. They are trying to conquer me. Ambush in the night. Anything money can buy and bring. Ambush in the night. So Marley is then saying, this assassination attempt, and is part of a larger sort of system that says that betrayals come from the exploitation of people who have suffered and people who are lacking in things. He blames the system for that. And so it's just back to back. So then we go into the second half. So you can see that Marley is still hitting, and in these albums, Marley seems to be so much mission driven. So Much Trouble in the World is probably one of the most depressed songs, the most seemingly hopeless songs by Marley, but it begins with a certain kind of hope. He says, "So much trouble in the world, so much trouble in the world. Bless my eyes this morning." He says, "Bless my eyes this morning. The sun is on the rise once again. The way earthly things are happening, anything can happen. They're sailing on their ego trip, blasting off on their spaceship, million miles from reality. No care for you, no care for me. There's so much trouble in the world." And the answer is all you've got to do is give a little. One more time. Give a little. Give a little. One more time. Give a little. And he addresses them. He says, "So you think you found the solution, but it's just another illusion. So before you check out this tide, this time, don't leave another cornerstone standing there behind." And then he says, "We've got to face the day, come what may. We, the street people, talking. Yeah, we, the people, struggling." And then moving from blast off on their spaceship, then he says, "Now they are sitting on the time bomb. Now I know the time has come. What goes on up will come on down. What goes around shall come around. So much trouble in the world. So much trouble in the world. So much trouble in the world." For Marley, trouble doesn't change. And he's sort of describing it. Nuclear war, bombs. These are things that are happening. Moving a million miles from reality, he says, these are things that are happening. But all you've got to do is give a little. Give a little. Give a little. One more time. Give a little. Give a little. Opens with this hopefulness. Bless my eyes this morning. The sun is on the rise once again. And remember I talked about Marley and landscape and Marley and the sun. He really sees in nature a kind of optimism and a kind of hopefulness. And then following that song is Zimbabwe, which briefly Marley wrote that song in celebration of the independence of the successful rebellion resistance in Rhodesia that led to the formation of the country called Zimbabwe, guided, of course, led by Mugabe, who, of course, will come on to have a certain amount of notoriety in the latter part of his life. But certainly that battle for independence, supported by the Cubans, and of course was fought by the South Africans. The South Africans were in alliance with Rhodesian government, Ian Smith and the Rhodesian government. So Mali then uses Rhodesia into Zimbabwe as a kind of thing. And I think when he wrote that song, Zimbabwe was not yet fully formed as a nation. It's telling that Mali was invited to the independence celebration in 1980, and he did go to the celebration and perform there in a quite historical moment. He begins with this declaration, a declaration that is attributed to Haile Selassie. He says, "Every man," and it's also attributed to Marcus Garvey, "every man's got a right to decide his own destiny, and in this judgment, there's no partiality." So he's saying every man has a right to decide his own destiny, and in this statement, this is a judgment. And he says there's no partiality, meaning that it's for every man, not just some men. So then he says, right away, he says, "So arm in arms, with arms, we'll fight this little struggle, because that's the way we can overcome a little trouble." It's interesting because Mali is justifying the revolutionary action that would lead to the ousting of the Rhodesian government, the white apartheid Rhodesian government. And what he's saying is that it is because there's no partiality in this need for everyone to decide their own destiny. He says, "But brother, you're right, so right. We're gonna fight, fight for our rights. Natty Dread in Zimbabwe. Set it up in Zimbabwe. Mash it up in Zimbabwe. Africans liberating Zimbabwe." Mali then goes on to the second verse, really using language of the time, political language of the time, language that was current. No more internal power struggle. And internal power struggle was the suggestion that was what was happening even within the rebel ranks. But what was actually happening was a civil war where Africans were seeking to take back themselves, their country, and their identity. No more internal power struggle. We come together to overcome a little trouble. Soon, we'll find out who is the real revolutionary, because I don't want my people to be contrary. Um, then he would say, to divide and rule could only tear us apart. And in every man's chest there beats a heart. And soon we'll find out who is the real revolutionary. I don't want my people to be tricked by mercenaries. So Mali is speaking very specifically to the times, to what was happening at the time. There were many mercenary forces. Many of the forces that supported Rhodesia and supported the white Rhodesia were mercenaries out of South Africa, out of Europe, who came to retain the Rhodesian government. And of course, the interest was because of all the diamonds and wealth that was there. Um, but of course, the Africans prevailed and got their country thing. So Marley says, brother, you're right. Not you dread it in the Zimbabwe, set it up in the Zimbabwe. Triumphant. It's one of the good stories, the good news stories, and Marley jumps upon it. In Top Ranking, which is another song, Marley makes these declarations, and this is what I'm talking about. He keeps painting the picture of how terrible it is. They don't want to see us unite. All they want us to do is keep on fussing and fighting. They don't want to see us live together. All they want us to do is keep on killing one another. Then he sort of calls to the Top Ranking. These are the people who are the leaders, the political leaders, and also the local leaders. And he says, are you skanking? Are you enjoying this? Right? Um, Top Ranking, are you enjoying this? They say the blood runs and it runs through our life and our hearts and the lives. John saw them coming, he says. John the Baptist saw them coming with the truth from an ancient time. It's brotherly love and sisterly love that I feel this morning. Brotherly love and sisterly love I feel this morning. Interestingly, that Marley's counter to this idea of not trying to make people unite is to say to us, we need to unite. All right, so he says they don't want to see us live together. All they want us to do is keep on killing one another. Top Ranking, are you skanking? When Marley returned to Jamaica for the first time, he came to a peace concert. That's what he came to do. And at that concert, Marley went on stage and beckoned the leaders, the two leaders who were part of this warring battle political party, Michael Manley and Edward Seaga. And he did something unprecedented. He managed to bring those two men on stage just by the sheer influence of his presence. And they shook hands and he prayed over them. Um, the war kept going on, but it was still momentous that he was able to have that kind of influence. But you can see at the heart of Mali, he says, there's this desire to create fussing, fighting, divide. But what he's hoping for is unity, a kind of love, brotherly love, sisterly love that I feel this morning. I think one of the more really word studying songs of Mali is Babylon System. And Babylon System lays out his basic philosophy of resistance. And at the end of the day, rebel is the refrain. We must rebel. We refuse to be what you wanted us to be, he says. We refuse to be what you wanted us to be. We are what we are, and that's the way it's going to be. You can't educate us for no equal opportunity, talking about freedom, people's freedom and liberty, because we've been trotting on the wine press much too long. Rebel, rebel. We've been trotting on the wine press. We've been taking for granted much too long. Rebel, rebel. And then he declares the Babylon system. The Babylon system is anything that is set to destroy the experience, the success of the African, the black person, the oppressed. And he's giving a thesis, a definition of Babylon system. He says Babylon system is a vampire sucking the blood of the sufferer. The Babylon system is a vampire sucking the blood of the sufferer. And then he goes into a fascinating description of how the Babylon system works. He says they're building church and universities, deceiving the people continually. Graduating thieves and murderers, they're sucking the blood of the sufferer. Graduating thieves and murderers, they're sucking the blood of the sufferer. I don't think Marley is anti-education in that sort of clear-cut way. Marley valued education. He valued the education of the people that are around him. But he was also recognizing that in the education system that was colonial, it was teaching people to denigrate themselves while it upholded a certain kind of view. And it was really a racist education system. And so he says the church, university, building church and university to deceive people continually. Graduating thieves and murderers, they're sucking the blood of the sufferer. And then he goes into this thing again, like repeat it, tell the children the truth. A whole verse, tell the children the truth. Tell the children the truth. Come on now, tell the children the truth. Tell the children the truth. Tell the children the truth. Tell the children. A whole verse of tell the children the truth. You cannot get it more explicitly, passionately. And so he says that. So we're trodden on the winepress. Rebel, rebel, rebel. We're taken for granted much too long. Rebel, rebel. From the very day we left the shores of our father's land, that is, from the day we left the shores of Africa, we've been trampled on, and we've been taken for granted much too long. Rebel, rebel. So this is how, and of course the album ends with survival. Um, Black survivors, we are the black survivors. How can you be sitting there telling me that you care when every time I look around the people suffering in every way? We are the black survivors, the black survivors. Some people got everything, some people got nothing. Some people got hopes and dreams, some people got ways and means. No, 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 we are the survivors, the black survivors. So, my friend, my agent, my sister, the preaching and talking is done. We've got to live up because the Father's time has come. Some people put the best outside, some people put the best inside, some people stand up strong, some people can't wait for long. We are the survivors, we are the black survivors. I think the idea is that we are the survivors undergirds the whole song. Very short, but it also pushes the idea of survival. So that's the survival as a fascinating album, because I think it's an album that sort of presents a narrative, but the narrative at the end of the day is that unity is the only way that Africans can understand themselves and so on. In the next part of this, I'll talk a little bit about our uprising, and that will wrap up the Mali records that he released in his lifetime that he was directly involved in.